everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Evexia Effect. I'm Gilly, your host, and today we're speaking to two amazing gentlemen who live in Crete, and their sole purpose now is working with people who generally feel like something is missing in their life. So we're going to chat to them, chat about what they're doing, their retreats, and how they're actually helping people. So welcome, Rob and Ed. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Perfect. So we're just going to get straight into it, and I'm just going to give you an opening question. So Find Your Magic is your brand. It's what you're advertising. So for anybody new to Find Your Magic, what do you do, and who are these retreats actually for?
Yeah, so Rob and I are partners in life and in work, and Find Your Magic is our company and it's our brand and it's the retreats we run in Crete. And they're really designed for mostly people who live in cities, people who don't have access to nature, and who are also feeling or coming into that kind of period of their lives, which is often midlife, but equally it could be after a big change like a divorce or an illness or a loss of job, and they're at that stage where they're kind of wondering what's next for them. Who am I? What's the thing that lights me up? What do I want to do with my life? And so what we created is a program that combines elements of discovery, personal discovery, with taking people to some of the most magical, we think, magical places on the island that we love. So really it's the combination of the inner and the outer. It's very much about looking after
Amazing.
themselves.
So you've got the headline, Find Your Magic in Crete. So what does magic actually mean to you in the real world and in everyday terms?
There's many ways of describing one's magic, but for us, it's that sense of connection, sense of vitality and aliveness, being kind of more in tune with the body, less in the head. It's that sense of kind of hope and clarity, I guess. It can be different for everyone, but I guess those things are quite a good umbrella term for all of the things that magic can be for somebody. But essentially, it's that sense of connection and vitality.
Yeah.
And I assume the way somebody feels about themselves. So that feel good factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, joy and playfulness play a big part in the retreat experience that we create for people. So the magic happens, the magic is kind of all the kind of constituent parts of our experience coming together. But it's also what people bring themselves and the group dynamic and the conversations that happen. It's all those things. That's the Crete in itself is magical. So many things.
For sure. And on day one, what's common for somebody to be carrying with them? So how are they feeling on that first day of the retreat?
It's on a group retreat, I'd say a lot of people are feeling a bit nervous. That's kind of a normal piece of feedback we get, and that's very normal before coming on a retreat. You're joining a bunch of strangers for a week where you're kind of just letting go of your day to day, and some people feel a bit nervous, but what everyone is feeling, whether they're coming on a solo retreat, a mini group, or a group retreat, is often that sense of, I really need some clarity. I really need to reconnect to myself. I really, I'm at this stage of my life where I just need to do something different, whether it's like have a week adventure retreat in Crete. Just to try something new. A lot of them come with that sense of, I'm here to try something new with an open mind and just to allow myself to be guided and held for the days or the week that they're with us. So a bit of both, that kind of anticipation of something new, but also the excitement of, okay, well, I'm just coming. We do enough preparation work with each person that when they arrive, there's a real sense already of connection and trust so that they can fully kind of let themselves go into the retreat.
Yeah, and they also, technically, they don't arrive as strangers because part of our retreat experience, or part of our preparation, is that we do kind of individual calls with everyone before they even sign up. As they're thinking of signing up, we have a call, so people can't just sign up for our retreats. We always have a call with them first, just to check in with them, to find out why they're interested in coming. We then do a kind of closer to the retreat. We have like a 1 hour call with each person to help them get clear on their intention, what they want to get from the retreat experience. And then a week before the retreat, we do a Zoom call with everybody that's attending. So everyone gets to meet online, so that on the day that they do actually arrive, they're not complete strangers. They at least have a face to put to a name. And we found that they tend to bond much quicker because they're not complete strangers. So that awkwardness that one feels when you kind of enter a new group is lessened, because they at least have met each other online.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's talk about your origin story. So how all this came about. So yourselves, you met on a retreat, is that correct? Back in 2015?
That is correct.
Yeah?
Yes.
So what happened on that retreat that changed things for you, your outlook?
Well, I was attending a retreat that Ed was running.
Okay.
It was the first retreat that I'd ever attended. Up until that point, most of my kind of holidays were with friends in places like Ibiza, very different, partying. And so I came to his retreat in Crete. So everything that we did on the retreat was brand new for me. I'd never meditated. I wasn't, a lot of the activities and practices and self-discovery things that we embarked upon, I hadn't really done before. But I have to say, it wasn't really, the retreat was amazing, but what changed for me, I think, was this unexpected attraction that I felt for Ed. I didn't come on the retreat looking for love. I wasn't a single person desperately looking to try and find a partner, like the complete opposite, in fact. So I was very taken by surprise.
Yeah, me too.
On the second day, I mentioned to the friend that I went on the retreat with that I was feeling really attracted to Ed. And nothing happened, and I didn't act upon it, and nothing happened on the retreat. But on the day after the retreat ended, I stayed for an extra day with my friend, and we went to the beach with Ed and his friend. And it was Ed that actually said to me that he was feeling quite a strong connection between us, and if I was interested in exploring it, then he'd be open to it, or words to that effect. So I flew home on the Tuesday and flew back again on the Saturday.
Oh, wow.
It was, just to add to that, I remember it was quite a bit of a naive thing from me at the time, because I was just kind of in my training to become a core energetics therapist. And I remember the teachers had said, to be open to your clients if that's something that feels right. So it was, it's not something I would recommend to all retreat facilitators that's not the intention of a retreat, but this was so, as Rob said, so clear and strong that I felt compelled to share something after the retreat, not expecting anything, just out of my own kind of practice of being able to speak what's real. And then to my surprise, he responded in kind and flew back 3 days later, and that was the beginning of it. So
clearly the right connection was there, because look at what you're both doing together today. So it was clearly meant to be, because you were doing retreats before. So did you move to Crete in 2015?
Yeah, end of 2015 was when I moved here. I discovered Crete in 2014 with my ex-boyfriend, who was Greek. We lived in London together, but I'd never been to Greece before. Running retreats. Well, actually, my first retreat was 2011, when I was as a fitness trainer in collaboration with another fitness trainer. So I've been kind of running retreats in very different formats on and off since 2011, and then Crete in 2016, let's say, 2015.
So what were the type of retreats you were running back then?
So it started with fitness retreats, which were very purely fitness based in like Barcelona, Mallorca, Then when I moved to Crete, I was collaborating with some other therapists, and they were very, very much about, 4 or 5 days in a space, very therapeutic. I was core energetics, trainee at the time, and my colleagues were core energetics and Barbara Brennan School of Healing. So they were quite intense therapeutic retreats. I then started to run one soul quest, I would call them. Individuals would come and I'd create a kind of week for them, which included an element of vision questing in parts of the island. It was kind of hands-on, hands-off. I'd have to spend some days with them and some days when they would have their own space. The one where you came was another collaboration with another local therapist, and then we started Find Your Magic in 2022.
Yeah, I would say that when I met Ed, he was very different I always say he was a bit new agey. He was a bit kind of
spiritual woo-woo.
Yeah, there's a lot of spiritual woo-woo, which isn't my thing at all. But yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later, but that's definitely not, he's very different now to how he was when I first met him, let's say.
We all evolve, we all change, and our surroundings and our people influence how we are and how we behave. What did you notice was missing, and how did you come about creating Find Your Magic?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
I mean, for me originally, I remember coming out especially of these kind of intense therapeutic retreats, thinking that they needed to be more immersed. Like a lot of retreats like those ones, you're in a bubble for 4 or 5 days, and it can be very profound work, but then there's two things missing. I feel that the integration with the outside world isn't there, and it's kind of you're in a space and then you're out of the space, and there's no real in between. But also the support of people actually from that kind of depth or that kind of heightened experience to their daily life, I find I was missing, and I found in the spaces I was seeing. So Find Your Magic was really that idea of like, how do we make something that's really like an adventure where we're out in the world, we're going to have dinner, we're hiking gorges, swimming in waterfalls, going to the beach, but there's also the depth of this work that happens not just in the space when we're in a circle or in a sound journey, but happens throughout that whole kind of week. And then ideally also, how do we support people to integrate all of the stuff that they receive in those days back into their daily life, and actually make it really tangible. Because it's very easy to do, to get lots of stuff, gets clarity, but it stays in the head. It doesn't stay embodied. It doesn't become real or embodied. And so, part of what we've been interested in developing is a program that's very powerful, very dynamic, with the inner and the outer, and that leaves a lasting sense of not just an impression, but a change when people return home as well.
Do you think the beauty of Crete has very much influenced how you host your retreats?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. There's a I don't know if you've ever been to Crete, but there's a magic kind of energy to it, and I liken it to the same kind of energy that I used to experience in Ibiza. You step off a plane and you immediately feel it, and Crete has that same kind of energy about it. It's hard to kind of really articulate it, put it into words, but there is definitely something very magical about this island.
A wild power, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's they call it a continent within an island because you have mountains, snow, you have snow-capped mountains in the winter, you have the ocean, you have kind of all this kind of very kind of lush scenery on the west, and very kind of arid landscape on the east. There's so much to this island. It's beautiful. I mean, having lived here for me now for 8 years, we're always discovering new things about this island, whether it's a beach that we hadn't discovered, or a gorge, or it's the gift that keeps on giving, because it's just phenomenally beautiful.
And it's also, I found it's very, very safe, very accessible. So we've had a lot of friends and even retreaters that we take wild camping, for example, and they've never done camping in their lives, or haven't swum in a waterfall in their lives. And so it's a very easy way in for people who live in cities often and who haven't had that connection to nature or that adventure available to them. So Crete is perfect to introduce people to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I personally have never been to Crete, but I do have a lot of hosts hosting retreats in Crete, and it's definitely on one of those must places to visit at some point in the near future. It
Yeah.
does look
Yeah, it is
incredible,
time.
and everybody I speak to, it just sounds amazing. Yeah, so
It's
we do
paradise.
plan to get there.
Great.
So we're going to talk about your no pretense, no incense approach. So what are you
Yeah.
protecting people from, and what are you inviting them into?
Just to give about that, a bit what we touched on before, actually, you know, and I can speak from my own personal experience. I'm kind of hosting, running retreats, and then along the way learning, you know, what actually people, what is real, what people need, what is most powerful, and part of that kind of no pretense, no incense is what the work that we do is how people become more real with themselves, you know, real with what they're actually experiencing in their lives, real with what they want, real with each other. And so a lot of our work is simply creating a space where people can just show up and be real with whatever their experience is at the time. So that's a no pretense. And then the no incense is a kind of a nod to the new age, my new age period where it was, you know, I was kind of teaching or working with spirituality in a way that was very much in the head and wasn't real. And I still see that a lot in a lot of circles, and I believe it does more harm than good often, because it doesn't get people into who they really are. It kind of stays in this kind of slightly dogmatic, slightly kind of culty way of living or being, and it doesn't help people actually get really kind of back to themselves. And so that was my journey. I really saw that in my life. Luckily, I had support and mentors and Rob to kind of help me come back to myself, relax a little bit, and find a connection that is a lot more real. It's still very spiritual. It's still very connected, but it's without the pretense or the incense. Although you do burn, what's it called, Palo Santo in the sound buds.
So how do you actually create the depth without being too overly spiritual in that sense?
I think it comes naturally from us, as a partnership, as kind of collaborators. I think we both have the ability to make people feel very at ease. We're both very kind of approachable. We're very kind of down to earth. So I think that plays a big part in it.
Yeah, and what I guess we've discovered is depth and playfulness are two sides of the same coin. It's like if everything is so serious, is you're not kind of going deeper, you're not really allowing yourself to be light either. When you create a space that is real, it has all the extremes, and so it allows people to kind of to cry, or to cry, often have a release, an emotional release. At the same time, it allows them to feel a lot of joy and lots of laughter. And we do workouts to show tunes, or people are kind of there's a lot of joy, but it also means that there's a lot of depth at the same time. I think the two come hand in hand. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, for sure.
I
It's all about
think there's
finding
also
that balance.
We've often found during, let's say, one of the kind of the workshops where we're kind of doing some of the inner work, we might enter that space with an idea of what we're going to do within the 2 or 3 hours that we have, but it becomes very clear very quickly, just from maybe the first exercise that we do, that it's going to that the group are going to really dictate where the work kind of goes, if that makes sense. So there's and I think having a flexibility and not being so rigid in our kind of this is what the program is and we're going to stick to it no matter what, there's I think that also lends itself to the space having more depth, because it feels very authentic and real.
That's true.
Perfect. So who are we actually aiming the retreat for? So you speak of people that are going through transition, so midlife, reinvention, burnout, loss, illness, relationship changes. Why are these moments so tender Why are we focusing on them?
Yeah. I guess we're focusing on them because that's the kind of people that we've attracted from the beginning, is people who have been in those spaces, who have been kind of more or less the midlife range, let's call it, whether that's, in late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Most of our clients fit within that kind of category or that age range. But all of them coming, as I kind of said, either out of or are in or are approaching a big change, like divorce, illness, someone close to them has died, or job changes, or simply that feeling of what's next for me. I'm kind of entering this second chapter of life, or what is next for me. And those moments are tender because what you kind of were, what was the tangible or solid for you has disappeared, or is like kind of shaky, and the new thing hasn't appeared yet. The kind of that sense of clarity and direction and focus often hasn't appeared yet. It's very, a lot of people, it's a very moving time, a limbo kind of time, and so that's the time when we often need the most support to not tell people which direction to go, but help people find their own answers, because it's all in their heads and out of their heads and their bodies and their energy. To help them kind of navigate that chapter on their own is really what we're trying to invite people to do, to give them the tools, and the kind of the reflection also helps a lot, to be able to trust themselves, so they can then navigate those tender moments a bit easier.
So many people navigate them naturally, don't really need help, but obviously there is the need that some people do need help, and they're stuck in what's called like a survival mode. What are the early signs of this survival mode?
Well, I would say, being in the head, operating from the head, not being in the body. When one's in kind of this survival mode, obviously stress levels are high. My work, I'm a sound therapist, so my work is focused on helping people kind of come down from that state of stress into a more relaxed, calm way of being. Because particularly, when we're talking about healing, for example, let's say on the body, you have to be out of a state of stress for the body to do what it knows naturally to do. The body knows how to heal itself, but it can't do that job when we're kind of operating in a state of kind of stress, because
Right.
the cortisone levels are so high that the body's focused on actually bringing those down. So,
how do people notice that though? How can they?
The people I say that come to our retreats, they've got to a point where they're either very close to burnout, where they know that they need some help. Those that have maybe done a bit of work on themselves, and a lot of our clients, aren't coming to this work without, or they're not coming to our retreats without having done some work on themselves. Let's say they may have a therapist, or they may have done some other kind of internal work, or got some, done some other workshops to get some kind of tools or resources to help them kind of navigate life's challenges. So I'd say, a lot of the people that we attract are aware that they will benefit from the space, from being out of their kind of day-to-day routine and being in nature, and just being able to pause from their daily life to kind of come and recalibrate. Does that?
It does, yeah. And I think, just in a nutshell, to answer your question, I think it's different for everyone. This, how do you know if you're in survival mode? But the main thing is, are you able to slow down? Are you able to be with yourself? Because if it's literally impossible to stop and be with yourself, it's either a structural thing, you don't have the space for it, or you're so like tense and running that you can't sit. You can't be with yourself. So that's a good test. Can you sit with yourself for 5-10 minutes? And if not, then there's probably some running happening at some level. It's either an internal thing or an external thing. But yeah, something you can shift.
Okay. And what would you like your guests to understand about healing that most people generally get wrong?
Oh, that's a good question. Want to talk about that around sound therapy?
I mean, I kind of think I just touched on it slightly. I come from a space or a belief that the body knows how to heal itself. And I've seen this countless times with my clients. You just have to be in the right state of relaxation for the body to be able to do that.
Yeah, and to echo that, I mean, even healing on not purely physical, but a kind of more holistic, the body, the mind. That exactly that. You need to have the space to be able to hear yourself again. And we all have the answers inside, or we're able to access them, but we're completely conditioned or trained out of our own power. And so, learning to slow down or have experiences like retreats or sound journeys that help your whole system relax and understand how you uniquely can navigate life and how your energy works and how your body works. For me, that ultimately does create healing for people. And the misconception is often that, I need to do so many courses or so many things, and eventually I'll get to this healed, enlightened state, when really it's not about enlightening. It's about, for me, becoming more human, becoming more real. It's letting go of even that idea of enlightenment as kind of these idealized images that we have about life.
There's a concept that was said to me in my early 20s, and I didn't really grasp the concept until later on in life. It's like you're trying to be happy with the next thing. So the next thing will make you happy. You've not learned to be happy in the now. And if you can't learn to be in the now, how are you going to heal? So you're never going to be happy because you think the next best thing's going to create that happiness for you.
Yeah, I think people also underestimate the power of, or the healing power of being in nature, just simply being in nature. The healing power of being with a group of people where you feel safe enough to be yourself, where laughter, is in plentiful supply. All of that is healing. And I think one of the, I remember one of the testimonials that we got from somebody that came on our retreat last June was that they couldn't believe that so much could have been achieved in the space of 1 week, because people, they do leave our retreats feeling completely different to how they arrived. And a lot of the healing that happens is very subtle, but very powerful.
Yeah. Great. So let's move on to the method, the magic method. So movement, aliveness, genius, intuition, creativity. What does each one mean?
Yeah. So funny enough, I think the last couple of days I've been reflecting on the method, and there was always something what didn't feel completely right about the last two, the I and the C. So I've changed them, and they feel a lot more, again, more grounded and connected. So the magic method, these are all kind of 5 gifts that we help people develop through our workshops, but also through what we do throughout the week. The gift of movement, getting out of our heads into our bodies, and relearning to listen to our bodies, to be able to move our bodies in a way that feels good, to be able to move in life in a way that feels good. The gift of aliveness is that what Rob spoke about, that kind of vitality, that energy, that power that we have when we can get out of these old ways of doing that don't serve us, and we can eat good food, swim in the sea, have great conversations, all the kind of things that make us really human, brings us this aliveness. The gift of genius, which is helping people connect with their talents and their gifts and their purpose and the things that they love doing and the things they're passionate about and the things that they're naturally, innately, what I believe is meant to be doing on this earth. And then the last two, so is the gift of intention, which is the power that we have when we're able to clarify our vision and kind of go for it, really intend for it, not from a pushing, but from a real sense of connectedness to ourselves, to the wider, whatever that is for you, to our role, our purpose in life, and to really kind of with intention move through life. But we need the last one, which is now the gift of courage. because all of these things are great, but we really need that courage to take the step. It used to be about creativity, and it is still creativity. It's how do we kind of create and move things in our life, but we need the courage to do that. Without courage, if we understand it, we feel it, we have the clarity, we have the intention, but we don't take that final step of actually doing the thing, having the courage to do the thing, it doesn't change. So courage is like the last one that we really need. So that's the magic method. It feels a lot more complete now after that shift with those last two letters. So it's always a work in progress.
Nice
really.
shift. You're right in the term of courage, because that courage is the person that's come to seek your help, come to the retreat, gone for help somewhere else, or just taking that step and then leaving your retreat and taking everything that they've got and take it with them. Yeah. If someone does feel like they've lost themselves before or after the retreat, what part of the magic tends to come back first? So,
good question. How the magic tends to come back first. I mean, I would always invite people to, if they get stuck on either the 5 things, go back to the beginning. It's like move first, get out of your head. Like that's the first thing. Get out of your house. You leave the room you're in for like an hour. Just move, do something that will help shift your focus. So I would invite people, if you'll get stuck, go back to movement as a medicine, as a gift to start with. But I think the experience of the retreat is a lot of people tend to move forward with their gifts. So the kind of genius thing, a lot of it, people on the retreats, isn't a kind of natural thing. Over a few months later, they start to kind of to find their natural gifts and talents, start to support other people, start to kind of develop their own offerings, their own workshops, and in the things that they love doing. And that's something I think that people tend to gravitate to, our clients at least, to gravitate to quite a lot on their return home. With a bit of time and a bit of support, they kind of move into that sense of how can I contribute to the world? So that for me would be the genius part of the magic.
Great. So as part of the retreat, you do sound therapy. What is, it's a conversation that we have a lot recently about sound therapy, but what I'd like to do is to just describe what it actually is and what it can do for the nervous system.
Yeah, good question. So from a retreat perspective, I do what I call a group sound journey, and that can either be lying on yoga mats. More recently, it can be lying on an airbed on a swimming pool. I do floating sound journeys now, or even in an aerial hammock. But essentially, a sound journey is an invitation, if you will, to kind of to go within. As the sound therapist, I'm using a variety of instruments, including my voice. I use drums, I use gongs, I use crystal bowls. So there's a whole, range of instruments that I use. And it's like, it's essentially taking people into a very deep state of relaxation. Okay. And going back to what I said earlier on, the healing always happens when you're in this deep state of relaxation. But essentially, if you think about, most people a lot of people kind of come in this kind of highly stressed state. A sound journey is a perfect way to get out of that stress state and very much into your body and kind of into a much more kind of relaxed state of being. So it's a kind of 90-minute experience. The sound kind of transcends the mind. So even if your mind is busy, very often the sound will cut through the chatter of the mind. So a lot of people get some relief from the chatter. It's a very profound experience. You kind of, what tends to happen with the sound, kind of the way that it interacts with the brain, it takes you into these kind of different states of consciousness. There are 5 states of consciousness, and the sound or a sound journey will take you into these deeper states or to these other states of consciousness or deeper states of relaxation. So very often when people kind of come out of the experience, They say they might remember some of it, but they may not remember some of it, and that's because during the sound journey they're kind of toggling, let's say, between these different states of relaxation. So some of them, one state might be quite daydreamy, while a lower state of relaxation will be more like a kind of sleep state.
And to add to that, it's also for a lot of people who've never done, never worked with energy or even done sound therapy. Found sound journeys are a fantastic way for people to start to get another sense of their energy, because they feel the tingling, they feel the vibrating, they feel the sound. They have these kind of slightly more expansive moments in a very safe, very held way. So it's a fantastic kind of way in for people to start to explore a little bit the more intangible aspects of themselves, which I think is great to see people often having these first experiences. It's very fun to watch.
Yeah, and they can bring, that it's a very intense experience, and it can very often bring stuff to the surface. So I always say to people, just be kind of conscious of just be aware of your mood over the next kind of day or two, because the sound journey might last 90 minutes, but the effects of the sound journey will be far greater, very often for the next few hours, or even into the next kind of day or two for some people. And it can bring emotions to the surface. It's like a purging. It's like it can be like a clearing experience.
So what do you notice happens in a group after a sound journey, emotionally and socially?
Immediately after a sound journey, most people don't want to speak because they're still floating from the experience. It's very common for people to kind of take a while to kind of land, let's say, or to kind of come back.
Because they're so relaxed, you mean?
Yeah, because they're so relaxed. I mean, it's like it's very relaxing. You don't often...
Not because they're like floating out of their bodies. It's more like they're so in their bodies and so in their energy that it's like coming back to a more kind of tangible, relating way of being. It's totally normal. It's like waking up from sleep. It just takes a bit of time to kind of come back to reality.
Yeah, and the people that do share, I mean, I can share some of the things that people say. I mean, very often it's very common to experience, let's say, either tingling or kind of twinges in the body, or even some pain temporarily or momentarily rather during a sound journey. And I always explain to people at the beginning, I kind of I tell them that if they do experience momentary kind of flashes of pain in the body, it's actually a good thing, because what it means is that the sound has actually met some kind of stuck energy in their body, and the pain is the point in which the sound that I'm creating with the instruments has kind of penetrated the body and kind of found some stuckness. And when the pain kind of dissipates, which it invariably does, it means that the sound has actually broken through and kind of shifted or cleared or moved this kind of stuck energy. So it's actually very welcome and a good thing to experience some momentary kind of pain during a sound journey.
Interesting. I never understood, or never even heard of the feeling of pain throughout a sound journey. That's quite interesting.
We had an engineer, and we had a lot of our clients are tending to be also kind of it's scientific in that way, but also keen to explore intuition and energy. One of our clients was he an engineer, or gave the he related it to, in cartoons when you have the opera singer that sings really loud and the glass shatters. He said that's exactly the same thing that happens. It's like the oscillation where they kind of the sound waves meet, and they kind of they then cancel each other out.
Yeah, because one of the kind of the key things that, sound journey is all about resonance. It's kind of we vibrate as humans. Everything vibrates in the universe, as we know, and we as humans are no different. We all vibrate. We have our bodies are vibrating all the time, and we have thousands of different frequencies. When I'm creating a sound with a specific crystal bowl or a singing bowl, I'm generating a specific frequency, let's say. And if you experience very often people will say after a sound journey that it felt like a clearing or something moved in their body during the sound. And what's basically happening is the sound that I'm creating with the instrument, which is creating a specific frequency, let's say, is resonating somewhere in the body. You know, when you have two frequencies that are resonating, you know, that's essentially how we're kind of bringing the body into balance, because a dominant frequency or dominant vibration, you know, will kind of, you know, it will serve to kind of to bring the lesser frequency back into alignment, you know, because that's essentially what we're doing with sound, and through a sound journey is bringing the body back into balance. So, you know, resonance plays a very big part of that experience. Does that make sense? Was that a bit too complicated?
It does make
Maybe.
sense.
It makes sense.
I understand what you're saying, so hopefully our listeners will understand as well. Let's move on to the 4 pillars of your retreat. So your retreats are built around these 4 pillars. We've got environments, embodiment, exploration, and energy. So can you unpack each one with an example from a typical week?
Yeah. Environments is the spaces that we create. It's, you know, all the things that we do to create both the container for people, but also the physical spaces. Rob is an amazing multi-sensorial, what do you call it? Scene setter. You know, he, like, you know, from the smells and even his sound bars, you know, it's all about the smell and the location and the kind of the lighting and the sounds, and you know, we set the dinner table in a certain way, and it's a very immersive and kind of held environment. That's what environments is about. Embodiment is all the activities that get people out of their heads. So it could be hiking a gorge, swimming in the cold water river. Obviously, we do some fitness workouts with them, etc. Or some gentle embodiment. Exploration is things like workshops, sharing as a group, sharing with a partner. We explore elements of their human design, how their energy works, how their intuition works, but also give them space to explore outwardly, you know, to have a wander around the village, or to, you know, when we're breaking for lunch, to wander around the gorge or wherever we are. And then energy is the practices that Rob brings in a lot with his sound therapy, helping people reconnect with their energy, but also equally some meditation or visualization that also help people connect with their energy. Yeah, is that nicely said?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's talk about Crete. So Crete is where all the magic is going to happen. So what is it about Crete that actually supports the transformations?
I always felt when I first came to Crete this, as I said, I think before, that kind of an easy way into a very wild power. It's a very safe place. It's very accessible. And yet it still feels, even when we're hiking, you know, half an hour away from here in a gorge, we'll spend an hour and a half walking a gorge. The first hour, you know, even if it's the height of summer, we'll be on our own in the gorge with the eagles and, you know, sound of the water and the wind. And then we get to the end, the waterfall, and it's packed. But, you know, Crete has this kind of, these different facets. You can be in the height of summer on a beach in the middle of, you know, remote beach in the south with no one around you. And you can have all these different experiences in this island. Yeah, that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I think, yeah. And just to add to that, I think a key part of our program is that, you know, we do take our guests to some of the popular spots because they are so awesome. But let's say, for example, like the first morning of the retreat, we take them to, there's a lake here called Lake Coronas. And during the day, it's full of tourists on pedalos. You know, it's quite sad to see, to be honest. But what we do, we take them, you know, we get up early on the first morning. We go for a sunrise kind of swim and meditation on one of the beaches close to Lake Coronas. And then after the sunrise, we go over to Lake Coronas around 7:30, 8 a.m. before any of the tourists are there. The lake is completely still. It's completely free of any other people, no pedalos. And it's just this magical experience where, you know, people just go into the lake and just, you know, you can just almost kind of see the kind of the relaxation happening in real time. So Yeah, that's again the beauty of Crete. We're able to, because of our knowledge of Crete and some of the best places here, we can take people to enjoy them at the kind of the optimum times when they're not full of, other tourists.
So you're integrating there's waterfalls, hikes, swims. Why does the nature-based challenge help people feel alive again?
Well, yeah, a lot of our clients, I do live in cities or do live, in kind of northern hemisphere, let's say, northern Europe, where life is less outdoors and more kind of indoors and computers and screens. And nature has that power, right? It has that power to connect people instantly to themselves. And, because our retreats are kind of, there's really these two sides, the inner and the outer. It's happened a couple of times that someone doesn't fully gel with the inner stuff, but to see their faces when they're like out in nature or camping on a beach or swimming, it's like, obviously we want them to get the best of both worlds, but the exploration in nature, everyone just has this kind of light up in their eyes. And I think that's the power of nature, of doing it in a way that is safe, that is fun. And the power of Crete is kind of a mishmash of all of these things, isn't it? I can't really explain. But yeah, that kind of the sense of it's very safe here to really enjoy connection with nature. There's nothing that's going to bite you. There's no snakes. There's nothing venomous. It's just a safe place to. For me, Crete is a big playground.
Yeah.
It's kind of come and play.
And it's very, I think what stands out for me about Crete is the crime rate here is very, very low. I mean, you really do have this genuine kind of safety here. Crime isn't a big thing. When people come to visit Crete, you can leave your, bag on the beach and go for a swim, which sounds, a lot of places you wouldn't be able to do that. But Crete is so safe that you can. Would you agree?
Famous last words, but yes.
And of course, we haven't even touched on the food. The food here is incredible.
That's a good advert.
Well, fresh food, naturally grown. It does
the Mediterranean diet, olive oil and
fish, olive oil. Yeah, it's
if you really want to experience a Greek salad, properly, come to Greece, come to Crete.
There's nothing like we say here in Kos. Kos used to be a tomato farming island, and I don't know whether the tomatoes taste the same in Crete, but you do not get the same flavour in the UK or other parts of Europe with regards to tomatoes. Yeah, for sure. What is one very Cretan moment you love sharing with guests that make them feel connected to Greece?
Getting stuck in a herd of goats or herd of sheep. I love that. Everyone loves that. Every time we're driving or the minivan or in the car or whatever, and suddenly there's like a herd of sheep or goats in the road and you have to slow down and stop.
We call it a Cretan traffic jam.
Love that. Yeah.
Perfect. We're going to move on to what your retreat format is like, and the inclusivity. So as part of the retreat, you're welcoming gay men, solo travellers, mini groups. What do these different groups need most, and what stays the same for everybody?
Yeah, that's great. They are different needs for the three kind of categories. So we run scheduled planned retreats, let's say group retreats for gay men, where people book from all over the world. And what they tend to look for is, okay, there's definitely a need for travel. They'll also love the personal discovery, wellness, but they're all coming from a need of, with kind of connection, I would guess. So connection to themselves, but also connection to a group of people, a group of gay men specifically, that become a bit like kind of a band of brothers for that week, where they can really kind of share all the ups and downs and highs and lows of their lives and their experiences. They're really looking for that kind of a space for that. Mini groups are often centered around a topic. We have a group of women coming this year, for example, who are all in their kind of 50s,
empty nesters,
becoming empty nesters, and they're kind of in that stage of like, okay, what's next? So what they need most is some time away from everything 5 days just to be themselves in a lovely villa, and then for us to come in and help them, well, probably relax, but also maybe get a bit of clarity in terms of, okay,
What's next?
who are they now? What's next for them? And then solo retreaters often come because there's a deeper need. Yeah, there's quite a big shift happening in their lives. So they need more kind of one-to-one time. Then Rob can spend a lot of time with them one-to-one doing his other therapies, and obviously do more one-to-one coaching and more one-to-one to work with them. Yeah, and they come when there's more of a specific need, I would say.
Yeah, coming as a solo traveler, we're able to work deeper with that person.
Yeah,
part of the sound therapy that I do with them is the voice analysis treatment that I do, which I'm not able to do in a group setting because of the amount of kind of work that goes into that. But it's a very very powerful treatment. So when people come solo, I can do that with them and really address some kind of specific health issues, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for someone considering a gay men's retreat, what makes this container special?
We were reflecting on this last year after the first one we ran, because it was beyond our expectations in terms of everything, the group, the kind of the depth, the joy. And I think what makes it special is, well, one of the things is obviously our connection, our love for each other, and our love for our work, our love for the island, our love for welcoming people here, and just our love for kind of our capacity to create a space that is very welcoming, very loving, very real. So I think that's very, I would say special about the group, the gay men's retreat that we run here. That's the main kind of feedback that people feel instantly within a day. It's like we've spent a month together already. They feel very connected, very bonded. And, that's continued. We're meeting the same guys that we had in June in Malton this week for a reunion retreat that they all asked for. And we put one for them in Malta because one of the guys is from there.
Really says something that if you're having a reunion after the retreat, that they've really gained something from what you had to offer. Yeah. Which leads nicely on to like the end-to-end support. What happens after they leave the retreat?
Sorry. I'm just going to stop our snoring dog. 1 second.
We've got old dog who does snore quite a lot.
It's okay. I can't hear him.
No, exactly. You can't hear him in the micro. And you could, yes.
Sorry. He's really putting me off.
You might have to ask that one again. Sorry.
So, leading on nicely, so you've just had, or you're having reunions, but on all your retreats, what is that support that you're giving to your attendees, your guests after the retreat? What does the integration actually mean?
We've kind of gone out of our way to really create a continuing support network, if you like, or community for people that come on the retreat, and it's open to everybody, not just the kind of the gay men. We've created an online space called The Circle, which is like a monthly space where anyone, male or female, can come and continue kind of working with us. But it's really just a space where people can just continue the connection. I do a monthly sound journey. Ed does a monthly workshop, and it's something that people really seem to get a lot from and appreciate. One of the kind of comments that we often hear is that many retreats, it's just the retreat experience. They arrive, they leave, and then that's it. But the work that we do kind of continues if people want to continue with us.
And the circle is kind of an optional thing. Of course, we give anyone who joins a retreat kind of a 2 or 3 months access as part of the retreat, but it's always optional if they want to continue beyond that. But we will always give one or couple of kind of group check-in calls following the retreats as well, where we know the group will connect a few weeks after the retreat and we'll kind of have a bit of a checking. How have you been going? What's been happening? To do that a couple of times after the retreat. And then often, Rob and I independently are checking in with the people on the retreat, just say, how are you? And kind of just making sure that, everyone is getting home okay, feeling okay, and moving in their life in how continuing to support them in a way with the tools with the understanding that we bring on the retreats, as they get back
But
into their lives.
it says a lot as well about the bond that's formed between us and the people that come on the retreat, and the people amongst themselves. These are, because we work with small groups. Generally our retreats are no more than kind of 8 people. 12 is kind of probably the maximum we would work with. So because they are relatively small groups, the bonds that are formed are quite deep, and they continue. The people, we know for a fact that the people that come on our retreats are in contact independently of us. We're all in contact with each other. And that's really beautiful. And that says that's really kind of, for us, is a kind of, it's great. It's great to kind of to know that our work has had such a big impact on people.
It sounds wonderful, and that ongoing support can be quite crucial. But some people do tend to lose their magic. They do lose their way, even no matter how much work you're putting in the background and afterwards. So what's a common way that people do lose the magic and when they go home, and how can they actually avoid it?
Yeah, good question. I think the main thing that would happen for all of us, right? Even us living here in that paradise, as you said, it still happens. It's easy to get back into our old habits, old ways of thinking, into our heads, into just kind of the our familiar way of living and being and thinking. And I think especially when you're kind of in a heightened place like a retreat in Crete, and you go back to your bubble, your city, your work, your family, it's very easy to kind of to get stuck, to get back into those ways of thinking and being, which obviously are not all bad, but on the retreat we help people kind of zoom out a little bit and get a fresh perspective on, actually I'm doing this thing, I'm working towards this, and this is not sincere to me, or I'm responding in this way and that doesn't feel sincere to me. So a lot of the biggest challenge for people is to get totally sucked back into how we normally are, and the way out of that is a good question. I think I would always come back to, well, the first step is going to be awareness, right? Knowing that you're doing the thing, knowing that you're repeating the thing, and being aware of how it makes you feel and how your body feels, because that would be always the first indicator that something doesn't feel, there's a reason why you feel alive when you're outside of that bubble, because you can feel yourself more, you can feel your joy. And when we come back into the bubble, then you kind of get weighted down again by all those things. But that the body, there is still somewhere in there. You still have access within your body to the way out. Like your body can show you the way out of these things if you learn to trust it. So it's always, for me, it's always invitation. Okay, you're feeling shit. This is happening, great. But what do you need to be doing? Only you know the answer of how you can find your way out of this. And that's about trusting your body for me.
Yeah. And I think, and to that point, that's one of the things that we help people realize whilst they're here on the retreat, that they do have all the answers. They don't actually have to look outside of themselves for those answers. And I think a lot of them do go back to their daily lives, of course, but they have that kind of added bonus of being able to kind of delve into a toolbox of things that we've given them to help them kind of back on track when they notice that they're off track. And I think the beauty of that is that they are more acutely aware of when they are slipping back into those old patterns and behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah, just that is enough often.
Great. So if somebody's been listening to this podcast and they're thinking, what the person that is the retreat is perfect for, they're thinking that is me. What would sorry. And in that in between moment, what would you say to them? So they think, I'm going to rephrase that question because it came out all wrong. So they're listening to the podcast. They feel like they may be a midlifer. They're going through all these things that you've been describing. What would you say to them at this point?
You mean in terms of joining a retreat? Or
Maybe joining a
generally?
retreat or general advice.
Yeah. General advice, I would say, I mean, kind of going back to a bit what we said before, if you're in a kind of that limbo state of like questioning, curious, what's next, what am I supposed to be doing? I know that what I've been doing has been okay, but I know there's more to life, is often the kind of underlying thing. Then my suggestion is trust it. That is real, that is tangible, it's not just a mind concept that you're feeling it inside your being, that there's more, whatever that means for you. Then first of all, trust it. And secondly, I would always say just be curious. Start with curiosity. What are the things that you're drawn to? What are the things that light you up? What are the things that inspire you? What are the threads of your life that only you can weave together? We all have these different curiosities and passions, and every person weaves together hundreds of different threads into the one thing that it makes you. And just starting to kind of tug on these threads is a good starting point. Yeah.
Really
Do we still have
nice.
a starter kit available?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
retreats do you have
We had
coming up?
Sorry, we had a we. I'm not sure if it's still on.
We won't have it on the new website, so don't mention
Okay.
it.
We did have a starter kit for those people that were starting to kind of question or were curious to maybe kind of find out where they were, or kind of to get some kind of help in moving, let's say, towards a retreat. We had a starter kit on our kind of website that took them through a series of questions to help them get some clarity.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice. And what retreats do you have coming up this year?
So we have two group retreats for gay men, one in June, one in September. And then we have bookings. Obviously, we have some solo retreats coming. We have some mini groups happening. And we have in October our first, which has come from a client that kind of requested it, or gave us the idea. It's a first retreat for parents and teens. So one parent with one teen, so kind of 3 pairs, let's call it, of parents and teens that just want some time away to kind of be able to connect, away from the screens, away from the phones, away from friends, and just have some kind of time to do something different
Nice.
together. So that's something that we're going to try out in October. We're very excited.
Yeah. And we should say that the June retreat for gay men is nearly full. I think we've got 1 or 2 spaces left. And then the September retreat, there are more spaces available.
Yeah.
So most of your retreats are listed with Retreats in Greece, so people can go on there to book. But what's your website address if people want to find out more information about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's findyourmagicretreats.com, basically.
Perfect. And I will, of course, write all this information on the description. And do you have social media?
Yes, yeah. I mean,
so we'll also write your social media in there as well, so people can find you on Instagram, Facebook, etc. But wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure talking to you. We could have spoken about a lot more, but we're running out of time. So I thought we'd best start to wrap it up. But it's been great. Thank you so much. And I hope people do come and explore what you have to offer. I know there's plenty of people out there that I know personally that would really benefit from your retreats. So let's see. And if anybody is listening and you want to know more information and you want to get in touch with myself, you can do. Just drop a message on the comment on Spotify and we'll get back to you. No problem. But yes, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Lovely to chat to you.
Thank you to all our listeners. If you don't already follow the Evexia Effect on Spotify, please do so. And we'll be back again soon for another episode. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.